today with Glenn Ryan, who we've run into at the water conference in Bulgaria. We'd love to know a little bit about you and a little bit about your thoughts about consciousness and why it's important for us to address it.
Yes, well, that's an interesting question, and it's too bad it's not really covered in this conference because this is a conference about, hard scientists studying structuring of water. But I have done a lot of research actually with water and consciousness, how conscious intention can change the properties of water. And the fact that when you put your intention into water, you can actually store that information and then add that water to, say, cells and tissue culture and produce a biological effect. I've done this, for example, with human lymphocytes grown in tissue culture in my lab, and demonstrated that when healers directly affect these immune cells grown in a petri dish, you can stimulate the growth of these cells. Okay, that's not surprising. Well, maybe it is, but not to me, and probably not to a lot of people in the audience. But the fact that you can do the same experiment and people can focus their intention on the water and then add the water to the petri dish is quite, to me, quite fascinating. And what's interesting is the fact that the magnitude of the effect is similar, whether it's a direct effect of the healers on the cells or an indirect effect via the water. So that means that the water is storing the information, most of the information, not 100%, a little bit's lost, it goes out into the cosmos, and then we have very similar effects.
So we're storing it not only in water in a petri dish, but also in the water in our own bodies.
Yeah, exactly.
And what effect is that having on us if we can transform our own consciousness so that we don't maybe even have to go to a healer once you begin to sort of change your own view?
Yeah, well, I'm a good example of that because I was doing an experiment one day and the healer didn't show up and everything was all set up, and I said, well, I guess I'll just have to do it myself because I wanted some kind of conscious intention. So I said, okay, I'll just do it myself, and lo and behold, I was able to do it, maybe not as strong as a powerful healer. Yeah, it's part of the mindset that I've had all along, that as a scientist, I need someone who has a special ability to emit energy, like a Qigong master or something, right? But in fact, people can do it themselves.
I first learned about this work, as I mentioned, 23 years ago. There was an old man named Robert Rasmussen who had come across this work intuitively. He had been an intuitive child growing up. He used to just write the answers down to tests in school, and he got in trouble because the teacher said, well, where's your work? I don't see your work here. And they would make him do it over again. And he would say, well, if you don't believe, if you believe I cheated, please give me another test. So he'd just write the answers down to these big math problems, and the teacher checked his answers. Well, I guess if you can do it, it's okay. As time went on, he used to take state examinations for the fun of it. He used to just walk in, write the answers down, become a structural engineer, say, oh, I think I'll become a real estate broker. He just had a whole stack of certificates at one point. He told me one time, he said, well, I had about 15 of them. I just threw them away one day. I just didn't think I'd ever use them. And he was visiting a woman whose daughter had a severe case of bowed legs. And the daughter was coming home from school crying every day. And he just asked the question, what can I do to help? And he got the message to do the breathing and the body focusing exercises, which I'm going to teach you. And he just touched her knees. And within moments, her knees just came right back together again. And she cried out, Mommy, I can touch my knees together. And from that day forward, he just dropped all his other certificates and career of different things that he could do, and he spent full time running energy and doing healing, often 8, 10, or 12 hours a day for his pretty much his entire adult life, doing hands-on healing work. I happened to be his neighbor, and I became his friend, and I'd go to his house about 3 nights a week and try to pick his brain and understand what made Bob so extraordinarily powerful and successful at running energy. Why was he so incredibly good at doing this? And what I found out by picking his brain for years was that he had come across the work so naturally. He didn't communicate it as well as someone who had to actually go through the process. And then I was able to actually go through the training that I had and incorporate things that I had learned to help evolve the work. Plus, there have been many people who have taken the workshops who have helped the work evolve further as well. Now, the first session that I gave completely surprised and amazed me. There was a friend who brought a rabbit to my house. And I thought it was so cute watching the rabbit hop around my living room. And it was lovely until I realized there were these pellets everywhere on the carpet. So I had to capture the rabbit, and the rabbit didn't want to be captured. So I had to corner the rabbit, finally got my hands on the back of the rabbit, and it was trembling under my hands because, as rabbits naturally figure, they're dinner. But that wasn't my intent. And I felt the rabbit trembling, so I decided to run energy into the rabbit. So I'm doing the breathing and the body focusing exercises, as you're going to soon learn, and the rabbit stopped trembling. And I continued running the energy into the rabbit, and the rabbit did something very peculiar. With my friend watching, the rabbit just stretched its front paws forward and its back paws back as far as it could. And I continued running the energy. My friend is going like this at this point. I continued running the energy, and a few seconds later, I felt the rabbit push against my hands. And at first I thought it was trying to get away. But no, the rabbit flipped over on its back and was stretched out. Like it was sunning itself on the beach in Hawaii. The rabbit was totally relaxed with my hands on the rabbit's belly. Now my friend is shocked as I am. That was my first shocking experience. The next shocking experience was where I went down to Los Angeles, and a friend had set up a little demonstration before Bob was going to come down and teach in Los Angeles. And there was a woman who was hunched over with severe osteoporosis. Every vertebra was terribly misaligned. I had her put a shirt on backwards so we could look at her spine. And the upper thoracics were sticking out like dinosaur bones. And when there'd be one here, one there, the next one over here, the next one there, and then one here, it was frightening. The lumbar were indented deeply. She walked in and she was hunched over and she looked at me through the top of her eyes. And I had her put a shirt on backwards so we could see her spine. I ran energy up and down her spine very slowly for about an hour and a quarter. No technique but the one I'm going to show you before lunch break. And within a period of time, people started saying, is that looking better or is that my imagination? And then after maybe 25, 30 minutes, they're saying, oh, it's definitely looking better. By the end of an hour and a quarter, everybody was stunned and shocked because every vertebra was in a totally straight line up and down her spine. The ones that were sticking out had come in, the ones that were in had come out. She stood up and all of a sudden she was a very tall woman. The third shock that I got was when I got a call from Bob's friend, and she told me that Bob's had a severe gallbladder attack. The doctors want to amputate. Well, I suppose when your only tool is a hammer, you tend to see life as a nail. But Bob was in deep pain, so I drove about 7 hours down to Los Angeles again, and I worked on him in a motel room. Ran energy in for about an hour and a quarter, and these real deep, intense sessions may take that long. And in the course of that time, Bob was perspiring like crazy. He got up, took a shower, and said, thank you very much. And that was the last time he had any gallbladder problems for the rest of his life. And incidentally, Bob passed away about a year ago. Before he did, he asked me if I would take over in his retirement, which is what I've done. And I've been bringing this work out into the rest of the world. Now, there are a few principles of quantum touch that I'd like you to be aware of. The first is that we're using life force energy. And the life force energy is what the Chinese have called qi, the Japanese have called ki, the Indian yogis have called prana, the Hawaiians have called it mana, and Dr. Beverly Rubik, a physicist, has found 76 words that different cultures use for describing life force energy. It's been around for thousands of years. It's universal. Everybody feels life force energy all the time. It's intrinsic to all of us. It's like the background noise of the fan that you don't hear, but it's always there. Life force energy is the animating current of life. It's what differentiates something that's living from something not living. The second principle that we're using is resonance and entrainment. When two things vibrate at different frequencies, there's a tendency for either the lower frequency to come up and match the higher frequency, for the higher frequency to go down and match the lower frequency, or for the two vibrations to meet in the middle. The quantum touch practitioner learns to hold an extremely high vibration with the breathing and body awareness exercises, and throughout the entire session, they keep bringing their vibration up higher and higher and higher. The person you're working on gradually entrains or matches the vibration of the practitioner. Now we can see resonance and entrainment all through nature. Electrical oscillators will tend, if they're similarly tuned, will begin to entrain to one another. Electrons at different vibrations will entrain, and the lower frequency electron will actually match the higher frequency electron. Then you have grandfather clocks pushed up against a wall. In time, all the pendulums will begin lining up to one another as the energy is transferred through the wall, allowing the pendulums to line up. We also see it in biological systems, how fireflies will begin to blink, frogs will croak, and crickets will crick all together. But you might think that's just social behavior. But you can take disembodied animal hearts, put them in a lab on a table, and they're all beating independently. But when they're put in close proximity to one another, they'll all entrain, and all the hearts will beat as one. I know that doesn't sound very romantic, but we also see it in women sharing a dormitory. They begin to menstruate the same time of the month. This is biological entrainment. So the practitioner is holding a high vibration of energy, and the person receiving the session matches that vibration. The person holding the center energy keeps raising their vibration higher and higher. They never come down to match the other person. They never become drained in the process of doing the work. You just get more energy from doing the work. You get charged from doing it. It also brings up another point. Who is the healer? A healer, my favorite definition of a healer is someone who was sick and got well. A great healer is someone who was very sick and got well quickly. You can no more heal another person than digest the lunch they just ate. Their body heals itself. Now, any of you know how you heal the cells? Like, say you cut your finger. How do you do that? How smart do you have to be to figure that out? Which brings up the third point of this work, which is the third principle, which is body intelligence. We're not healing other people. We're holding resonance and allowing their body intelligence to come up and do the healing that it decides it needs. You get that? Now, we pride ourselves as a species as being really smart, and we want to outsmart life a lot of times. That's why we try to study so hard and to control and manipulate or use force to make things happen. But ultimately, we can't outsmart life. We don't understand the functions going on in our own body. There are hundreds of functions to the liver. How many can name them all, right? How many can do them all consciously? There's lots going on in our body that we're unaware of. We've got about 100 trillion cells, and each one of these cells has about 1,000 things happening that we know of every second of the day. We can't keep track of that. I don't know how to keep my heart beating at night. We've got enough DNA in our body, if you unwound it all, there's about a yard of DNA in every cell. And if you multiply 100 trillion times a yard, you could make 200 round trips to the sun with all the DNA in our body. Yet the medical profession has this idea that we try to poison the disease in the hope that the disease dies before the patient, rather than raising the life force energy of the person and allowing their body intelligence to take over, providing the best nutrition, the best emotional balance, the best lifestyle conditions, and the life force energy to raise their system. They're trying to outsmart, to manipulate, to poison, to control the situation that would cause things to happen. Rather than that, we want to learn to trust the process, trust the body to heal itself, trust it to do what it needs to do, what it wants it to do to heal itself. Now, there may be many kinds of reactions that happen during that session. Pain may come to the surface, emotions may be released, but we trust it all because it's all part of the releasing process. The body is probably the most underrated form of intelligence on the planet. You know how smart our body is? Our body is so smart that if you have damaged DNA in a cell, even while you're still alive, the cells can heal damaged DNA. That's how smart it is. And we have the arrogance to try to interfere with the intelligence of the system. So I really am excited that we're using the intelligence of the body to heal itself. So we're using life force energy, resonance and entrainment, and body intelligence to let the body do what it needs to do. Now, in order for us to start running energy, we've realized that energy follows thought. So, hold up a finger. And we're going to put our awareness into our finger. Anywhere that your awareness goes, life force energy goes too. Now, the goal of this exercise is to see if you can feel any kind of sensation in your finger by putting your attention there. You could imagine you're breathing through your finger or feeling the pulse going through the finger. You might even imagine you're stroking your finger with a little feather. Anything to generate sensation. Now, when you've generated sensation, see if you can make it stronger. See how strong you can make the sensation. You might try breathing through your finger to get more sensation to come into that finger. Like that. Okay, is there anybody not feeling sensation in their finger? Okay, everybody's feeling it. Good. Other people who do not feel sensation will find that by practicing these exercises over a period of time, maybe a few days or a week, months, or maybe even a year, all of a sudden sensation may come to them and they'll be able to feel the sensation. Working without sensation is a little bit like working blind. It's not really a problem. You can do the work quite effectively. So we're going to start with an exercise, and your name is? Maktin. So I'm going to invite you to come sit in this chair up here. And have everybody take off your shoes. This is the undressing part of the class. And what I'm going to do is a very simple thing. In fact, it's so simple, I'm going to talk about it for a long time. Because so many people overcomplicate it, and I just want it to be really easy. You can think of it like stroking a cat. You didn't take any lessons to stroke the cat. It's really easy. You stroke the cat and you let go. You don't kind of go inch by inch stroking the cat. You don't do it with your hands off the cat. The cat would look at you like, what are you doing, right? But you just stroke and you let go. The purpose of these strokes that we're going to do on each other is to be able to get a person to feel sensation in their body on their own. If you leave your hands in place, they're only going to feel your hand, and they're not going to be able to feel their own self without you being there. So just imagine stroking a cat. It's important to let go after you stroke. So I'm going to demonstrate it. It's not very complicated. I just start at the feet, and I stroke up the feet, and I let go. I don't have to do it perfectly. I don't have to cover every inch. Now you put all your attention into your feet and try to generate some sensation in your feet on your own. And when you have generated sensation, you say, okay. All right, good. Then I stroke up the leg to the knee. Now generate some sensation in that area. Good. Put your hands over on the side. And I stroke up the legs and let go. And then across the belly. There's no exact way of doing this. Okay, we'll come up the chest. And, oh, he touched with the back of his hand. Just was convenient. Didn't really matter. Okay, then I'll skip an area. We'll come down the head and face. All right, and then I'll go to the arms. Okay, and then we'll go to the open hands and end in the open hands. Good. How's that feel?
It feels the warmth.
You feel you,
When you would touch me,
Yeah.
almost immediately I would feel the warmth.
okay. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Now, feels pretty relaxing for most people. Pretty wonderful. So, you want to stroke, let go. Don't go too fast. Don't go too slow. Don't try to heal the person. This is not about trying to heal them. I've seen people try to concentrate and do things. It's not about that at all. It's just a touch to feel sensation in your body. Ah, yeah, I can feel sensation there. Now, there will be some people who have blocked areas where they do not easily feel sensation. There may be their thighs or their tummy or their chest or different places. Have the person stroke that place again. Say, can you please stroke it again? And the person strokes it again. And then, if you still can't feel it after a second or third try, skip it. Go on to the next place and have them go work on another area and stroke that. So you don't have to worry about grounding yourself. You don't have to worry about being grounded when you're doing this work. The process of putting your awareness back through your body automatically grounds you. So it's a wonderful aspect of the work. Now, let's go into the second stage of running energy. If I can borrow you again. I guess I'm going to pick on you for a little while. Okay. So the second step of this exercise is just like the first, but a lot faster. Just let your legs strain. So I just do the entire leg in one swell foop, okay? And then go to the whole tummy area to the top of the shoulders in one sweep. And
I can feel the same, the warmth. Like
it's already going.
Feel your warmth.
But it's not really my warmth. My hands aren't hot.
It could feel that way.
It could feel that way, all right. And the third step is down the arms all the way into the open hands. Yeah, so you're just feeling it moving through you. That's actually the life force energy. Thank you very much. Okay, it's getting a little easier, a little faster. Now let's do the third step. Now we're going to do the whole body in one sweep. So I go up the legs, up the middle, down to the hands in one swell foop. And are you feeling that throughout your whole self?
Yeah, I feel very relaxed.
Very relaxed. Great. Now stand up and turn your back, and we'll do the whole back side now. So those of you who are wondering, how come you didn't do the back? Well, we're doing it now. Exercise feels better and better as you do it more and more. Now, this exercise is just training wheels. Once you learn to do the hands-on healing work, you're not going to need to come back to it at all. I'm going to have you cup your hands, very soft hands. You don't want any pressure on your hands, just soft hands, cup your hands. Now, as you sit here, imagine that you're being stroked from the feet, up the legs, up the torso, to the top of the head, down the shoulders, down the arms, into the hands. So feel as much sensation as you can throughout your entire body and bring that sensation into your hands. Okay, now what are you feeling? Is you feeling sensation gather in your hands? Heat? Excellent. You're getting the first part. Now, let's build it up and start doing some breathing techniques, because breathing techniques are going to empower this much stronger. Okay, so we're going to start the breathing techniques. All the breathing starts below the belly button, goes to the top of the shoulders. You want to be fairly erect. You don't want to be all slumped over. These are pretty full breaths. Not necessarily 100% full, but you want to move a lot of air. The breathing is your self-protection. The breathing keeps your vibration at a very high level, which means you are never going to entrain to the other person. Let's practice what I call a 4-4 breath. And a 4-4 breath is where you're inhaling pretty much a full breath of air to the count of 4, and then exhaling to the count of 4. And a count is about 1 second in length. So let's try that. Breathe in, and then out. You can do this through your nose or your mouth. And it's just a nice smooth pace. Breathe in and out. Now, here's the trick to this breath to make it work effectively. What you want to do is you want the inhalation of your breath to coincide with a sweep of body sensation from your feet to the top of your head. So on the inhalation, feel that sweep going all the way to the top of your head. And on the exhalation, you want to feel a rush of sensation down, gathering into your cupped hands. So let's do that together. Feel the inhalation and the sweep together. You're linking them together. Count of 4, and then exhale, and feel it gathering in your body, gathering in your hands very intensely. Feel the inhalation and it's sweeping to the top of the head, and then have it gathering intensity into your hands. Now, how many are feeling more sensation when you do it this way? Good, good. And some of you it looks like you're so concentrated breathing you didn't raise your hands. So that's a 4-4 breath, and it's a very comfortable, easy breath that people can use throughout a session, and it's very effective. The second breathing technique that I'm going to show you is a bit more intense, and it takes a bit more work. It's a 1-4 breath. You have to breathe through the mouth to get that much air in on one count. If you try to it's just too much for the nostrils. So what it is, it's a... So why don't you try it together? Feel the sweep on one single count, going up through your whole body, like that, and then exhale. And feel it just rushing into your hands. Feel it gathering in your hands. See how much sensation you can bring to your hands. See if you can intensify the sensation in your hands on the exhalation. Don't worry about the sensation on the inhalation. Take a big breath in. Don't have to make a lot of noise like I do, but I'm just exaggerating it a bit so that you can hear it really loud. Yes, you want to breathe through your mouth on the inhalation. You can breathe through your nose or your mouth on the exhalation. This is a technique that really holds a lot of energy. And I'm giving you a series of them, and you can pick and choose the ones that feel best and work best for you. There's no correct or exact answer in terms of which technique is best when. You'll be able to figure it out on your own as we get started. A third breathing technique is for those who feel that this was too intense for them and they need a softer technique that you can just do more comfortably. This is a 2-6 breath. And you don't have to count the whole time you're doing it, just get it going. So the 2-6 breath with the nose or the mouth on the inhalation and exhalation. 2 counts in. And now try that together. Inhale for 2 and exhale for about 6. And feel as much sensation in your hands. Gather as much sensation in your hands as you can on the exhalation. I don't use this breath very much myself, but some people find it comfortable to use and they can use it. The more air you're moving, the more life force you tend to bring into your system. But you don't want to get too dizzy and you pass out and it causes lots of problems. Okay, how's the sensation? Is it getting stronger in your hands as you're practicing more? Okay, good, great. Now, the last breath in this series is one that we're going to practice a number of times because it takes longer for people to learn this one in many cases. It's a modified breath of fire. It's a fire breath. The best description I've ever heard of it came from one of my teachers, and she said it's a little bit like being out of breath. It starts with a big inhalation, and then there's like some very rapid panting. Now, panting is not all exhalations. Panting is exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. And it sounds like this. I'll demonstrate it first. It's a big inhalation. Maybe 6 or 7 inhalations. Just take a deep breath in and then let it out to the count of 4 or 6 on the exhalation. So, It's a big inhalation in with a bunch of inhalation exhalations like you're panting, followed by a big inhalation in, and then you exhale it out. So let's do it together. So a big breath in, big breath in, and now breathe out. And now pay attention to the sensations in your hands. Put all your awareness into your hands and continue one of the other breathing techniques. You don't want to do this technique more often than once every 2 or 3 minutes, because if you do, you can get so lightheaded you can fall over. We don't want that happening. You also don't want to do more than 6 or 8 breaths, because that can also get you too lightheaded and get you passed out. It's time now to have an interesting demonstration. Now I measured you, and your hips were off in a really nice kind of way. And if I can borrow you for a moment, have you come up here. So we're going to get this on camera. Now, as I measure the hips, what you want to do is you want to put your fingers into the sides and press down and see where they stop. And if we get a good camera shot on this, I'm going to get down really low so you can see where my fingers are. I do a close-up on the fingers. And can you see the right side is higher than the left? Good. And it's about, yay, much higher. Now, why don't you measure and do what I did and put your fingers there on the sides, press in. Now you got to get low so your eyes are level with your fingers. Can you see the right side's high? Very clearly. Now, hands are very softly there and there. Go ahead. Put your hands, no, you don't have to be low. You're not measuring now. Now just do the breathing and the body focusing exercise. Why don't we turn you around this way so people can see? That's good. And just run the energy. Do the breathing, get as much sensation into the hands. Now, are you feeling anything as she does this?
Warmth
You're feeling warmth. Where do you feel the warmth?
in my lower back, right
In your,
underneath your hands.
underneath her hands. Mm-hmm. Now this works at least 90% of the time. And it's lots of fun. And by the way, I had a chiropractor tell me that, I've had a lot of chiropractors tell me this was impossible. And because when a person's standing up, it's physiologically impossible for the body to restructure and realign itself. That's why they put you on their side and they go crunch or use different techniques. There are subtler techniques that many chiropractors are using too and work wonderfully well. Well, let me measure and see what you've got so far. Okay, why don't you measure now? Let's bring the camera around here. I'm going to get low, and you can see where the fingers are. Got that? Great. Now, why don't you measure yourself, since you've already learned how to do that? See, that's great. What do you see?
Yeah, it's pretty even.
Yeah, it's completely even now. Yeah, the bones move back to alignment with a light touch. Thank you. The chiropractors were right. The body wants the bones in alignment. How do I know this? I'm positive. Because you didn't think right side go down, left side go up, they should be at 37.5%, this side could go up this much, that side. It's too complicated for any of us to figure out. It all is part of the natural process. Now, I call the work quantum touch because I realize that what we're really doing is affecting matter on a quantum or subatomic level. Deepak Chopra wrote, in order for consciousness to affect matter, it has to happen on a quantum or subatomic level. You can't affect cells and organs and tissues and bones and ligaments and tendons. You affect the stuff that makes up the subatomic particles. I met a quantum biologist named Dr. Glenn Rain who had tested healers and found out they were affecting the winding of DNA by consciousness. Now, what is subatomic? Subatomic is that level beneath the atomic level, and when the physicists are looking at the stuff that makes up everything, you look at the glass of water, think of the water, it's H2O, hydrogen and oxygen, but the subatomic particles that make up the hydrogen and the oxygen are something entirely different. The first thing that they notice about these particles is that they're not particles. They're calling them energy packets. And that is because they have no mass. They don't weigh anything. Well, why do they call them particles? They're not anymore. They have no mass. Well, why do things weigh something? It's a mystery. Why things weigh anything when the stuff that makes it up has no mass? The second thing is that when the scientists expect the particle to spin 2 or 3 times, it would. The guy who thought 2 times, it would, and the guy thought 3 times, it would, so they started blinding the experiments so the expectations of the scientists wouldn't impact the spin of the subatomic. The subatomic stuff that makes up everything is what we're actually affecting, and it works its way through the body intelligence, through all the systems, the organs, the glands of the body, all the tissues of the body. It affects the ligaments, the tendons, the muscles, the bones, affects everything. And then, in our gross awareness, we see the bones moving back into their alignment. And we say, ugh, bone move. Because we're not seeing the billions or trillions of changes that are taking place on subatomic levels. We're not seeing how the whole body integrated the energy to allow your hips to move back into place. We're just seeing the end result. And then people say, oh, I see, quantum touch is about moving bones. Yeah, I suppose that's one way of looking at it, but we're affecting everything in between. So we have one person who told me she worked with 8 AIDS patients and brought them all down to unmeasurable or nearly unmeasurable levels of the virus. We have practitioners who tell me they're working with cancer patients, and that the cancer patients, well, one of the practitioners, he keeps hearing this from the patient's doctors over and over. Doctors saying, we've never seen this before, where we've never seen an aura around a tumor, where the next time the tumor shrinks down and the next time the tumor disappears, and the doctor wanted to do exploratory surgery after that was over. The body heals itself. We don't have to understand it, we don't have to figure it out. We just have to hold that resonant field and let the body do what it wants to do to heal itself. So let's cover some hand positions. If there's neck problems, you want to use your fingers on the sides of the neck. Now, I'm holding these 3 fingers up. And Bob Rasmussen liked to call this a tripod position with a thumb, index, and middle finger. You can concentrate with intention and have the energy go out your fingertips as opposed to out your palms. And you can concentrate the energy very powerfully that way and have it go into a small area. You want to create a field of vibration that's going through an area. So you use both hands and run the energy into the sides of the neck. You could come down the neck, lower and lower. Here's the 7th cervical, it's the big bump that sticks out in the back of the neck. You could run energy into that spot. If there was shoulder pain, you just touch the shoulders. Run energy into where the pain is. The most basic technique of this work, oh good, I get to spin you around, this is fun. The basic technique is called the where does it hurt technique, where you put your hands where the problem is. Then we chase pain or sensation anywhere it goes in the body. When sensations move through the body, that is our body's way of talking to us. Our body says, hurts here. And you run energy there. And then the person in this one case said, oh, now I feel it here. This was like a 3-day migraine headache that was never going away. Then while the person was working, all the sensation went to the throat. And she said, well, now I feel it all in my throat. And then a few minutes later, the woman said, well, now I feel it all in my liver gallbladder. So the woman worked into the liver gallbladder area. The whole body heated up, she perspired, and then the headache disappeared. Because you don't have to understand the physiology. You just let the person tell you what's happening. So, hand positions for the neck, both sides of the neck. Have you stand up. And for lower back, I would put my thumbs on the lower back. Now, if you said the pain was here, I'd put my thumbs where you said the pain was. You said the pain was here, I'd put my thumbs there. If the pain is down lower, I would go lower. I just put my thumbs there and rest my fingers. And one of the beauties of this work is you can do it wherever you are. If you're in a cafe, you can always have a person sitting or standing. I've done this work in bookshops, I've done it in train stations, done it in parking lots. Everywhere I am is my office. Have hands will travel. And you want to have soft hands throughout. You don't want to have your hands tight, because tight hands block the flow of the life force energy. If I was working, say, through your heart, I would have one hand behind, turn around to the side, and one hand in front. So I'd be running energy right through the heart area or any organ that you want to be working on. So you sandwich the body through the organs that you're wanting to work. Quantum touch is so natural, everybody automatically almost does it right away. What do you do if you bang your knee really hard? You go, ow! Huh, that sort of looks like where I'd put my hands if I was doing a quantum touch session, right? And you're going, ow, ow. You're doing the breathing too, right? So realize the client is in control of the session. Remember, I said the healer is the person who was sick and got well? And you have a question.
I'm wondering if it's ever painful to receive energy from a session.
Yes, it can be. Pain can flare up during a session and get stronger than it was before. And it's a very temporary thing, and then I encourage people to trust the process, let the pain do what it wants to do, let it go through the system. Remember this 13-year-old boy had had a skiing accident where he broke his knee, and after the cast was off, he was walking around with a limp, and his father said, hey, could you work on his knee? So I said, sure. So I happened to be there, and I worked on his knee, and he said, ow, you're hurting me, you're hurting me. I said, well, breathe deeply, and he breathed, and he says, now it's on fire. And I said, well, just breathe deeply, it won't last long. And he breathes, and he says, ew, now it's weird, it's all pins and needles in there. And I said, well, just breathe deeply. He goes, oh, now it feels nice and warm and good in there. I said, okay, breathe deeply, that won't even last too long. And he breathes, and he goes, oh, that's fine. And he gets up and he walks without the limp. The next day his father said, work on him again. He said, I don't need it, no more pain anymore. So you'll often see things flare up, especially from injuries. Injuries are the most common time for the pain to flare up, but it can do it other times too.
How long should a session last?
Well, how long should a session last? There's no clear answer to that question. It really depends on what a person needs. I've seen a lot of people at my demonstration lectures where I'm doing 2 or 3 minutes on each person, and that's what they needed when they come to the workshop. They say, oh, this pain I've had for 20 years went away from 2 or 3 minutes. Other people may need a whole series of sessions. There was one man, a fellow named Lamar, worked on in Southern California, who had muscular dystrophy, and his calf muscle, Lamar said, was about 2 inches across. He was 60 years old, and he's never been able to walk. After a series of 1.5 to 2 hour long sessions 3 times a week that went on for 3 months, the man's calf muscle doubled in diameter, and now he's walking for the first time in his life. So there are too many variations to know how long a session should last. Basically, it's as long as the person needs it.
I was just wondering, what are some of the biggest mistakes that beginners can make that would keep them from being effective?
This is very important because there's only 3 of them, really, that we see. One is being in an awkward position that's uncomfortable, because that takes away from the energy flowing smoothly. The second one is having tight hands. And the third mistake is that people forget about breathing. You got to keep the breathing going. If you just do those 3 things, people will do wonderful work.
So what if I'm working on someone and they don't believe in quantum touch? Does it still work? Or?
Yeah, that rabbit didn't believe in what I was doing either. I didn't say to the rabbit, you're getting very sleepy. The chiropractor didn't believe that the bones were going to move. We're having people who are under general anesthesia who are receiving quantum touch sessions, and the blood oxygen level, when it dips down to 92% and it starts being critical, and the patient could die or get complications or infection, we got a head of the anesthesiology department doing sessions and bringing the blood oxygen level. And placebos don't work when people are under general anesthesia. So it doesn't matter how much or little a person believes in the work. We're working with a real force of nature, the life force energy, and it does what it needs to do on its own.